Now, obviously, I'm here to do my pick'em, which everyone's been waiting for. Sad thing is, I think I actually would have had like the best or the second best coin for the last 2 majors. But because I worked both of them, I was never able to actually observe one of the games in the playoffs, so I could never get the coin. So even though I'll be giving all you guys straight fire and get loads of these picks right, including I've got a new angle on how you even pick, the meta game, can never do it. So I thought anyway, for this one, since I'm going to be at home, I'm at work in the event anyway, video on some of that stuff coming soon. I did pull out this old t-shirt that Nicola Nyom gave me one time. Top 1 analyst. Thought, fair enough. At least he's being able to put bygones behind him. Just respect me for my work. I think he's trash, personally, but thanks. Appreciate it. So, okay, let's get into CSGO. Let's get that coin for everyone, shall we? So here we are. Obviously, there we go. We're inside the game now. Now, here's the key thing to understand, but I'll explain it again, because I know a lot of casuals watch these videos and not people who are super deep into esports. The key thing here is this, and don't worry, I'll be doing my pick'em throughout the whole tournament. I'll do it in time, so you have an opportunity to potentially look and see if you like any of the angles. Right, first things first, I used to just do this, basically, by the pure thing it says on the screen. So for 3-0, I would pick the strongest team to go 3-0. For 0-3, I would just pick the worst team. Then I would pick the 7 teams in the middle. Now, obviously, people will know if you actually want to increase your chances of winning the coin, there is a flaw with how the overall thing is set up by Valve, where even though they tell you pick a team that will advance undefeated, it's actually a mistake typically to pick a very strong team that will 3-0 because it is so easy to lose one time. Remember, there's a bunch of BO1s before the elimination or progression match, and because anyone can lose the BO1 seemingly, and the Swiss system, you don't know who you're going to play, it means that basically if your 3-0 team just loses one BO1, they're not going to be counted as one of your teams and you've wasted that pick. So what other people tend to do instead is this. You pick your terrible team for 0-3, you pick 7 teams you're certain will get through, including the strongest ones, all go in the 7 down here. And what you do here is you just put a gamble in. But I've got the next level, and people who saw the last major will know this is the update on the metagame, in my opinion. Here's the real way you game the system further. What you do is this. You pick your strongest teams in the 7, you pick your weakest team over here, you pick your strongest teams in the 7, you pick your weakest team over here, but here's the little secret. What you do for the 3-0 team, I got this last time, I picked FaZe Clan, and this is why. You pick a team that you think actually will end up 3-2, but of the teams that will end up 3-2, who is the one that if everything went crazy well or players just performed at like their peak level, who could actually fluke the 3-0? That's the team you put there. So I put FaZe Clan last time, this is obviously before they had ROPS, because if everything went amazing with players like Twist, Brokey, and the experience of their players, yeah, of course they could win a bunch of BO1s, as they did, and in fact Carrigan even fragged out in that phase, and they 3-0'd. But there's also a world where they could have easily dropped maps here and there. They had a semi-alright map pool. Sometimes the firepower wasn't always there, and they would often lose close games, so they could easily have gone 3-2 as well. So similar philosophy here. So what I'm going to do as a result is I'm going to do the 3-0 last of all, and I would recommend other people follow my philosophy essentially. Well, I mean, we'll see if anyone figures out a better way to game the system. So I always like personally to start with the 0-3. Who is the worst team here? Who's definitely not going to get through? I'll also say for the other teams that are going to go through, we're also going to add in the context of like basically who are they playing in the first round? Therefore, how likely is it they start 1-0 or 0-1? So, okay, we have, I'll just run through all the teams initially. We have Ents, who actually has managed to get to like, number 4 on HLTV, but you look at the tournament placings they've had, you have to put them up there. Sure, they're not a team you'd actually expect to win in a big final or win this major, but they're actually, like, when you look at wide open the majors, they're a dark horse. You look, they actually start out playing 9Z. I actually think they're going to win that easily. So this is a team that could be a strong team. It's certainly going to be one of my best to get out of the group. G2 similarly. G2's a dark horse to win the whole major. They're probably like the 3rd best team in the world on paper, right? Even though they've had all those stumbles recently. Forza is the classic underdog from Russia. They still have Jerry, who was always an overqualified IGL for this level. They've got a couple of nice little fraggers as well. They've re-upped their team with a different lineup from 2019, if you don't remember them. They're actually a canny little dark horse team. I could see them maybe sneaking into a 3-2 position here. Astralis is obviously another team. With the teams here, you'd think they're at least like on the border to get through, probably going to get through, but they haven't looked that strong. Sure, the Farlig factor has given them a little trio of firepower, but is it going to be as consistent against this level of competition? Yes, I'd probably say so. But further on in the tournament, I don't know about that. Oh, by the way, G2 plays Team Liquid first, so maybe they can even get upset on that one. Maybe they're not a 3-0 team. Forza plays Renegades. I actually think that's probably an easy win for Forza, so Forza could be starting 1-0, G2 or TL will be starting 0-1. Astralis plays against IHC, who is a Mongolian team. You'd expect them to win that one, obviously. Vitality hasn't gotten it together yet. Zemu's not playing great. He's never actually done that well overall at the majors. He's actually, even individually, hasn't been that great at a bunch of the majors. And so as a result, I would say I'm certainly interested to see how their performance will be here. I would expect them to get through this phase, obviously. But you look, they play against Complexity. There's an outside chance they can lose that BO1, depending on the map. There's fraggers on the Complexity side. That's one area sometimes they can be a little bit weak on. Vitality is raw firepower at the moment. MIBR, again, like I said on one of my other shows, you couldn't even name all 5 players. So nobody really knows these guys. They play outsiders, Virtus.pro, so I expect them to lose the first game. But actually, they seem to be a team, maybe a bit like NIP, where you look on paper, you're like, they shouldn't really do that much. But they seem to consistently overperform for what you'd think for the on-paper roster. So maybe they're even sort of like one of the teams that's going to cause... I think they'll basically fuck up this stage for a couple of other squads, but they won't get through themselves. Or maybe be a 2-3 team, and they'll get like 1 or 2 BO1 wins off other people out of nowhere. Then you've got the aforementioned Imperial, who I made my bet with before. Obviously, the last dance. By the way, MIBR plays outsiders, like I said. Imperial plays against Spirit, and obviously I actually have Imperial winning that, so I think they could even start 1-0. I don't think they're going to get out of this phase, but no, they really shouldn't get out of this phase. They can maybe be the 3-2 team last, but I think even then, probably not. Bad News Eagles, I know people are loving them from the RMR. I don't expect them to do much here, but certainly a surprise factor. They play against Eternal Fire, which is obviously the XANTARES Turkish super team. And then obviously, you know who all these teams play, because I've just done them, but we'll go through. Eternal Firepower, for this phase of the tournament, has some pretty good firepower. They actually look like in the BO1s, they could be dangerous. I expect them to be a slightly stronger version of Space Soldiers from back in the day. Themselves a borderline team to get out, but they can certainly cause damage to others. I would expect them to win at least 1 BO1 off one of my top 3 or 4 teams in this Swiss system, depending on the map. Then, obviously, we've got Team Spirit, I said before, still got firepower to do something here. I think stylistically they've crushed the theme of the team. Outsiders, I actually think, could be the strongest team in this whole section. They just haven't really kicked into gear yet the last few months. The lineup is fucking amazing, though, and I think the firepower is way too much for this group, so I think they're a very good chance to 3-0. Complexity is a team, I think, is another borderline team to get out. I think there's a lot of borderline ones in this particular phase. There's not as many big, obvious teams or best teams in the world. So, Cole has the firepower to do it. They just haven't looked like a squad so far. IHC, I expect nothing from. Renegades, I expect very little from. Team Liquid, I actually think could shock. And not only do I think they'll probably get out of this phase, but I could see them being a team. I'm thinking of them maybe already for the 3-0, because I think they're more likely probably a 3-2 team. But I could also see them winning the 3-0 with a couple of miracle BO1s. They have got Elysian Naf, and they have got OC, who might have the odd game, especially against lesser AWPers, where you can dominate. And then you've got the 9Z team, who, look, I don't really rate them, but fair play, it's a cool story. They're in other South American countries aside from Brazil, and they're at the major. They've certainly managed to, again, overperform like the MIBR squad does. Maybe they can even nick a BO1. I will say the key thing for me here is, when I'm trying to pick my worst possible team, I mean, there's not many that actually even in the category, right? Realistically, it's between IHC, Renegades, 9Z, if I'm even being mean. I don't even know if 9Z should be in there. Bad News Eagles, maybe MIBR. I think there's not many teams to pick between here. So I've got to say, I think I'm probably going to say IHC or Renegades, I think, for this one. It's my worst team, 0-3. Even so, part of me thinks, I'm always shocked that people like Renegades, by the way, are ever even in contention for this. In my opinion, the fact that you native first language speak English means you can so much more easily contact and indeed consume like European meta of Counter-Strike. That there should be no excuse for you being bad. You can just do more homework. If your team's from a country like China or something, who the fuck even knows what connection you have to Europe? You might not even understand what you're watching in terms of like maybe there isn't the right person to explain it to you, or you can talk to in your language. So I have always thought it's outrageous that Renegades will be in position. I could easily see them coming last, though. So I don't know what to go with it. Like, on the one hand, I feel like there's no hope for Renegades. But on the other hand, I feel like IHC, surely I have to pick them to be the worst, though. Let me think. Because here's the problem. I think Renegades has a better chance of beating Forza than IHC does of beating Astralis. So I think I'm going to go with IHC, because there's a world where Renegades can just screw the first BO1 and magically get it. So I think I'll actually say fuck it. I'm going to say IHC comes last place, 0-3. Right, then we're going to do the other 7 teams, and like I said, my last one's going to be that. Now, a spoiler, just thinking through, I'm already thinking Team Liquid is a strong candidate to be my 3-0, because either they fluke 3-0 like FaZe Clan did last major, or they're going to barely get through, in my opinion. So I actually think they're a team. I'm really thinking that one through. So let's just go with my strong ones first. So out of all these squads here, I am very sure. I know they've looked rocky in the last few months. I know online they can be dodgy, but I am very sure no matter what's going on in the world, I think Outsiders is getting out of this group. First of all, they're hard enough anyway, the BL1s. They've got a great map pool. They've got firepower that's, I mean, maybe Ents is better than them. If Ents, G2 can contend, but aside from that, after those two, at a minimum, they're the third best team in terms of firepower. They've got experience even. They've got a great set of players. It's really only the real life stuff that can potentially fuck with them. I also think they've got a lot to prove at this major. So I think that, look, even if they lose a BO1, boys, they're not losing BO3s to some of these teams. It's going to be really hard for these squads to beat this team. So I'm taking them first of all. I'm actually going to, for now, just take Ents over G2. I do think G2 is going to make it as well, but I've got to take Ents because I actually think Ents is another 3-0 potential, but it's the inexperience. It's the fact that people like Spinks, they're not known for playing majors. These are players that I expect this is going to kind of be like the Entropic or even Ents from last major. Like, I expect what will happen is in the first phase here, they'll look really good and people will frag out, and someone like Spinks might be like the top rated player. But then in the next phase, the new Legends phase, it'll get a lot harder. There'll be more of a 3-2 team. They'll be battling, there'll be 2-3, there'll be 3-2. Barely squeaky, and it's more like that. That's what you should expect. So for this phase, I expect them to be very strong and make it through. Then I'll obviously take G2. Look, Nico alone could wake up and get you through this phase. I expect, look, I can't know how Monacy will play. It's his first big major, but I think it'll be decent. Hunt has actually been like sleeper, very consistent this year in general. And I think Alexi B's just been waiting for a line like this. They're a real dark horse to win the major. I mean, technically they're one of the favourites. If you only go like one, they're probably the third favourite to win the tournament, right? So I've got to take G2, of course I have. Then, who else are we going with here? Like, I also think the roster of Vitality, look, they can lose BO1 to him. Maybe they could even lose a BO3 if they have to play, like, I don't know, obviously middling teams. Like, maybe you go to Outsiders, Team Liquid, Eternal Fire. Maybe these squads could beat them. But surely, with 3 potential chances for BO3s, as long as you don't mess up all the BO1, they're going to get through. Like, I expect there'll be more of a 3-2 team. You know what? I actually wouldn't also hate that. To be fair, I think the other choice here is this. I think the 3 teams most likely to either 3-0 or 3-2 are in this order. Team Liquid, Vitality, and then Outsiders. I wouldn't personally put Outsiders for it, but actually, you could also put Vitality, in my opinion, for the 3-0. There's a world where Zero just plays amazing. They look way better. They've got some experience in their lineup, and they just 3-0 the group. Or they barely get through. I would expect them to maybe like be the 3-2 or 3-1 team is, I think, more reasonable. I think lose one series or one BO1 makes more sense to me. But I expect you to get through eventually. So we've got 3 teams left, and then my 4th. So at the moment, I'm thinking Liquid for that one. With who I've got the rest of my squad, though. So let me see. So if I'm going to take Team Liquid to go there, I've got 3 names left. So if I'm going to take Team Liquid to go there, I've got 3 names left down here. So let me think. Now, this is tough. Because the problem is, part of me thinks Astralis might have some real moments of just looking like they won't even get through here. But when I look at all the names, I think I still would pick them to be one of the teams overall. So let me see. Who have I got left? I think I'm going to do that. I think I'm going to take Astralis to get through. A mixture of, they've got Glaive, the trio of stars. Like, look, it doesn't even matter if Farlig has a very average tournament. Config, as long as he plays on Nuke and Ancient like you expect, and Blameth's just going to be Blamer. So I think they've got just enough all around to get through here. But I would expect them. I don't think they're going to 3-0. I don't even really have them on the table for that. Even though playing IHC in the first game, not a bad way to start, right? But I don't, there's a world where they can beat the Enses and the G2s, the BO1, of course, but I wouldn't pick it to happen. So 2 teams left now. I'm going to remember probably save TL for here unless I swap it for Vitality. So who am I actually saying will get out here? Let me see. Eternal Fight. The problem is it feels like too much of a meme to pick Imperial, doesn't it? But at the same time, when I look at these other squads, like how many have I got left? I've got Forza, MIBR, Imperial. Let's see. I'm definitely not taking 80 teams I was going to come out last, so I don't really need to think of those, do I? It's really between Liquid, Forza, Imperial, Eternal Fire, Complexity, Liquid, Complexity, Eternal Fire, Imperial, Forza. I think I'm going to say Forza makes it through. Do I really think that, though? I think I do. I think Forza actually sneaks through this. I think the canny little map pool, I think the IGL's underrated. I think Firepower probably also will be underrated. I think they're going to sneak through. I think Forza gets through. Complexity, Eternal Fire, Complexity. Like, I like the complexity players. I just feel like the experience will wreck them. That's the problem. And I just feel like Dirty is just not, it turns out, the right IGL for those players. I do think he can be a good IGL. I think he would be better IGL in like a real team, though, like with proper structure. So maybe am I taking Eternal Fire or Imperial here? See, I feel like the raw firepower of Eternal Fire actually probably does sneak them out of this group. Yeah, I think that makes sense. So I'm actually going to take Team Liquid as the 3-0 team, because my logic goes, like I said, I would go between Team Liquid, Outsiders, Vitality. I think Team Liquid and Vitality are the biggest ones to likely to do this. I would take Team Liquid to be probably more of a 3-2 team, but I think they're also a very good chance to 3-0 without being a one where like, oh my god, how can I not pick them? Like, if I had to take one that's more likely, like the problem here is Astralis, Forza, Eternal Fire, they're not 3-0, and that's the issue. So if not, I'm taking like Vitality is also a world where they may, like Vitality and Liquid, I do think also can potentially not make it through. Like there's a world where that can happen. Like Liquid, OC could just not let me go that good. Shox isn't that great. The overall style of the team hasn't been figured out yet. And then Vitality, if Zero doesn't play well, the others haven't looked that great. The firepower, they can lose close games, boys, to a lot of teams here. But I'm going to say I think overall these are pretty good picks. Like I'm very liking the Team Liquid one. I think it's actually a pretty good metagame angle. I think in general, I think I'm going to get at least of my 7. I think I get at least 5. I would say at least 5. I'm not as certain about getting all 3 of these, Astralis, Forza, and Eternal Fire, but I think I'm going to get 2 out of the 3. I think this is actually pretty solid, boys. I think we're getting the coin here. I also would add in, let me think what other factor I wanted to mention here. I also think if we look at the actual games of the BO1s, let me see. Because remember, Eternal Fire starts against Bad News Eagles, so I expect them to start 1-0. Forza starts against Renegades, I expect them to start 1-0. Astralis starts against IHC, 1-0. So there we go. I think all these teams start 1-0. Yeah, I think this is a pretty good pick. I think this is how I like it, and obviously I'll be back to do other future ones. Are you wondering where Snake and Banter is? Would you like to see the forthcoming relaunch of Counterpoints? Well, they're not going to be hosted on this channel anymore. Indeed, by the way, By the Numbers won't be hosted on Richard Lewis's channel anymore. These shows will all be found at this channel, the Insight on Esports CSGO channel. The name will change in the future, where you can not only find already episodes of Snake and Banter, but yes, all 3 of those shows, and potentially more, will be housed there in the future. So if you want to keep up to date with them, go over there and subscribe. This video was kindly supported by Ahmed Hadjou, Matt Pugnatio, Rajcula, Kyle R, Pacy, Travis Goff, Ochs, Animosity, BotPounder420, Hades, Jensen Goh, Joseph Ginsburg, Kovacevicd, Tobias Bernasconi, Thooorin, Zoomba, Zyrathenia, and a special thanks always goes up to Jerky's Minion. Would you like to find out who upcoming guests are going to be? Maybe even suggest them on the topic for my content. Maybe you want to appear in one of those lengthy esports discussions with me, or ask me a question for my video AMA. Well, if these perks or indeed any of the others available intrigue you, then join the Skrill Illuminati today. Put the money where your mouth is. Where? In the description box below and the Patreon link.